Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Comics for All. Today is Tuesday, November 25th. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson, your host here at Comics for All, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Today, we have the wonderful Carlos from Wicked Comics joining us. Carlos, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us. The first question we like to start off with everyone is, what got you into comics as a reader?
Well, I got into comics as a reader at an early age. It was early '90s, and I went into my first comic book store. And I saw these comics on the shelves, and just something just drew me to it. I wanted to know more about each character that I was seeing on these images. So that's pretty much what drew me into comics.
How old were you at the time?
I would say between like 9 and 10. Around
Okay.
the time of Death of Superman.
Uh-huh.
Around
Okay.
that time. I actually I met all the creators in a comic book shop when I was really young. So that
Oh,
really,
cool.
that caused a big impression on me.
Absolutely. Can you share with us kind of when you realized that you wanted to be involved with comics full time? What kind of the steps that led to that?
It was never in something that I never really thought was going to happen, but it kind of just fell into place. I
Hmm.
created Clownman, and then just based off of the feedback I got from that character, I decided just to make Wicked Comics out of it, and and just do my own creations. So it was more just based on the feedback I got.
Love that. Um, uh, Another question in terms of reading, can you share with us it doesn't have to be a title that came out this year, but something you've read this year that's really stood out to you?
I haven't really had a lot of time to pick up anything new, but I did pick up the Last Ronin. I'm looking forward to reading that. I flipped through it a little bit, and I really like the artwork on it. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book.
Hmm. I think the speculation was that somebody
I'm,
was going to turn that into a movie, and I think it recently just got canceled, I believe, as a movie.
oh, it did. Oh, that's a shame. I could see it. Yeah, I could really see that go in a motion picture. That would be really really cool.
Yeah, the artwork is really cinematic, and it definitely lends itself to being adapted that way, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of the original, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That also came out around the '90s. I think early '90s.
Yep. So now we're
I
gonna
think
delve.
I forgot the.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say the guy from the Jim Henson did the animatronics. I think to that. So that was, yeah, big inspiration. Jim Henson.
Love that. Jim Henson's one of the best. So in terms of building Wicked Comics, as a publishing company and a brand, when did you first create it, and kind of what inspired its creation?
Wicked Comics started I would say about 5 or 6 years ago. It started with just a concept. I was thinking of different names to name a comic book company, and I
Mhm.
wanted something to describe the company, that's something edgy. So I came up with that, Wicked Comics, and then with that I created the logo, the WC, and you know uh, yeah, that's how that started. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question? Uh,
Yeah, the second part is what kind of inspired you to create it? Was there anything that specific, or just kind of a culmination of events?
yeah, definitely a culmination of events. Like I said, just the edginess of the stories that Wicked Comics has. That's pretty much how it was created.
And then a follow up question that just came to my mind right now, like you mentioned the logo. When you're creating a logo, especially for like a publishing or a brand, how do you go about doing that copyright and trademark how do you approach that? Actually, that's a question I haven't got to ask anyone yet.
Sure. Yeah. With copyright, you could actually do it. It's even all the creators that are listening, you could just do it through the USA copyright. They have a thing you got to submit a bunch of images of like say like Clownman. You would submit a few different images of the book, and then basically I think you would have to write a little bit of description of what it's about, who created it, and then you could copyright it like that. And I think they also have a trademark thing on the copyright itself on the USA website. It's like
What is
USA Gov, or I forgot the exact page, but you could do it through the government.
That's okay. My question is, what's the turnaround time on it? Is it pretty quick or is it pretty lengthy?
No, it's lengthy. Like which each book I release, I try to do a copyright with it. It takes a few months,
Got it.
actually. Yeah, they send you a form and everything.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna have to look into that
Yeah,
myself
so
because this YouTube
yeah,
channel at some point I need to copyright at some point.
yeah,
uh,
absolutely. You could, yeah. They give you several. You'll see when you get on there. They give you several options. Uh, like if it's like a theater piece, an art piece, you would just have to select the correct thing for. Um, I haven't done like a YouTube channel, but I'm sure you could do it.
yeah, more of the logo and the name, so I don't want anyone else to take that. For Wicked Comics itself, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Can you give us a little bit more of what kinds of stories or what kind of themes or elements will people find in stories within Wicked Comics?
As far as the stories, I would say um, just stories that are dark. Not they're not all dark, but a little, I would say, edgy.
Hmm.
They're totally different than your standard superhero book. Uh, Usually, something happens, an event that changes the something in the character's path that makes him into that character. That's the for each book is something different.
That's right. So actually, kind of leads into my next question. When you're working on a new book and you're trying to assemble kind of a creative team, how do you go about that process? Back and forth with artists and writers, and you being the publisher too. How do you kind of balance that back and forth?
You know, um, I only worked with one artist, and it was all through through Facebook Messenger. You submit different ideas back and forth. But it didn't really work out with that one artist, and then all the books that you see now, they're all I've done them. You know
Oh,
the
sweet.
the only the only thing that I do use is from fans. They'll submit artwork, then I usually put it in the book.
I love that. Do you sometimes get just like fans sending stuff kind of unsolicited, just like, hey, here's how much I really enjoy your book, and I'm going to send you this piece of art.
Yeah, no, all the time.
Oh, that's
All
fantastic.
Yeah, all the time they'll send in stuff, and then I usually I'll put it in as like a back a back piece, or some like an interior piece of the book to have. I always like to incorporate the fans into the projects.
Because it really gives fans, I feel like, a sense of autonomy that they're able, like you said, to participate and engage with what you're putting out.
Yeah,
And in that same
absolutely.
vein too, uh, how do you balance creative expression with the practical side of everything, the publishing, the printing, distribution, marketing? How do you? 'Cause I know a lot of times people get these creative ideas, and it ultimately may not end up on the paper, on the printed product. How do you make sure that your initial idea and your concept actually comes through, and actually comes through in the finished product?
Um, Sometimes I'll do like storyboards. I'll storyboard my ideas to make sure that like all my ideas that I had for that particular project make it into the book, you know. Or I also have like a journal. I also suggest that hey, you have like a little, you know, like a notepad or something. If you have any ideas, just jot them down so you don't forget them, you know.
Always.
Yeah, that's a big one because a lot of times, you know, things will just pop into my head, and then right away I'll always you know, jot a quick note down to make sure that makes it into the book.
That's right. And now that you mention it too, since the company's been around for a couple of years now, what advice would you share to someone who's really interested in starting their own kind of imprint or their label coming into 2026? What's some advice you would give to someone?
The advice I'd give them is you know, just you know, first, you know, do it because you know, it's something that that's fun for you, you know. But I would say try to create something that's original, you know, something that you know, it's such a saturated market. There's so many comic book companies, comics out
Mhm.
there. I would say just try to create you know, stories that are a little bit different, you know. We know that everything's more or less been done before, but just try to make your own unique spins on things. You know, that's some advice I would give somebody.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And then kind of going, excuse me, into your creative process and your inspirations. What you know, kind of what is that like? How long, especially, is it for like a concept to printed product? Is it pretty short? Can it be pretty lengthy? Is it vary depending on the project? Kind of what's your process from concept to printed product?
Yeah, like you said, it varies from project to project. Some take longer to develop, and some just come quick. You know,
Hmm.
like the project I'm working on now, Lichens. I think we're going on like a year and something, and it's finally almost done. But it's just that sometimes, you know, you gotta gather you know, information based on the period. You gotta research the clothing, you know. So you know, it depends on project to project.
Do you actually like doing that aspect of it, where you actually having like to research on historical time periods, or do you like that part of the process actually?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it you know, that way when you're creating your characters, you could base them based on that period, you know, or you know, whatever type of story you're working on. I always like the research part of it.
Makes sense. And then in terms of your inspirations, are there any comic artists, movies, or creators in the industry who've really kind of inspired your work?
Yeah, definitely. I always say I go back to Image Comics. You know, Jim Lee, uh, Todd McFarlane, and Rob Liefeld. You know, those guys that they branched off and they took a chance and they created their own characters and stories. So I would say those three are big inspiration as far as with the comics, for sure.
And it's really been cool to see over the years how Image has morphed into number three. Really, there's the big two, obviously, with Marvel and DC, but Image is right there in terms of they're definitely the biggest American comic publisher outside of those big two. And they
Yeah,
are no one's going to be taking that spot anytime soon.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. They're. I think yeah, you got the top DC Marvel, and you got Image is right there, and that's incredible with them starting independent.
Oh, I know. It's amazing to see, especially in library world, where libraries were very reluctant to buy Image stuff, and now our shelves are filled with Image titles, and it's wonderful to see kind of that transition and that flip of being very reluctant because they were on the independent kind of edgier side of things, but now they're a very accepted publisher on public libraries, bookstores. They're everywhere now, not just comic book stores.
Yeah, that's great to hear that they're accepting yeah the more, you know, not the traditional comics, you know.
That's right. And this is a question I like to ask creators: is do you ever revisit earlier work to see how your voice or your approach has changed or like evolved over time?
Actually, I do. I like to see it because I like to see how you're progressing as a creator and an artist. You see, like, oh man, I can't believe you know I, every project you release, you get better.
Hmm.
I don't see how you can. And then sometimes I'm like, oh man, I can't believe uh, I would have done, maybe I would have done something different here or not, but hey, it is what it is how they say, yeah, but yeah, I always revisit old things to just to see my progress if I'm getting better.
Whenever you actually get like a finished product in your hand, can you actually enjoy it, or do you find yourself still like kind of nitpicking things as you're going through it? Like, man, I wish I could change this, but the final thing is here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I find myself like I do enjoy, but I'm also nitpicking. Like, oh my god, did I color something here wrong, or uh, it's just that you work on these things so many hours that it kind of like at a certain point you go black, you black out. You don't see everything. It's
Absolutely.
just like it's just so many hours you put into it that it's hard to be perfect.
Well, that kind of really delves into a follow up that just came to my head now is how do you deal with like a creative roadblock if you're either having a writer's roadblock or you can't nail down the design of a character, or how do you approach, or you pitch something to another publishing company and you get rejected? How do you handle those kind of things in the creative sense?
Okay, yeah, okay. First, I would say, if you get rejected by a publisher, somebody's looking for, I would say, you got so many options nowadays that I really don't. You could do things on your own, a Kickstarter. There's so many independent things that you could do uh, by self-publishing. So I wouldn't be discouraged if you really believe in what you're doing. Is a good. It's a good story. You have ways to put it out there. You don't. It's not like before that you had to get one publisher, and then if you didn't get a publisher, you're pretty much done.
Yeah,
But now we got so many resources that you could do it as an independent.
that's right.
And
And then
uh, the second question, you said if you get like you get
like
stuck on an idea,
yeah, writer's block, or you
at
get stuck on a
writer's
story,
block.
a plot point.
You know, luckily I don't have that problem because I've made like a character list of like over like three, like now I think it's like up to 250 characters. So it's
Wow.
like I have like non-stop characters. But I would say if somebody gets into roadblock, um, just try to watch different movies or look at other different creators what they're creating, and then maybe something will spark in you to create something.
Absolutely. And this is another good question, kind of on the creative side, especially now that you're saying you illustrating a lot of your own work. What are your go to pieces of equipment in 2025, digital and physical?
Um, traditional, I still draw everything traditionally. So just the basic pen, pencil, pen, and the colors I do it on Photoshop. I try to use the Wacom tablet, but for some reason I don't know if my memory is too low or something. It doesn't work correctly. So
Hmm.
it's very awkward to use.
So now we're going to delve into some of your titles that you have available. The first one is Bloodstone, which thank you for sending me. I got some copies here, which is pretty awesome. I got to read them.
Oh no,
Um,
you're welcome,
if,
Jameson.
Thank you. If you can, for viewers, give us a quick pitch of Bloodstone and kind of what's going to pull viewers in.
Sure. Well, Bloodstone. It takes place in this world called God's Land. It's this gothic type of setting, and there you find an assassin called Bishop Cross, and he comes in contact with this fallen angel that has this ancient deadly stone, the bloodstone, and then that's when he becomes his bloodstone, the character. And basically, God's Land is this place that's all these demonic forces always attacking this place. So that's why he's there to, every issue is a different villain that he's going to be facing.
In terms of the character design, was there anything that kind of inspired what he looks like, or like the character himself, kind of his inspirations, his challenges, or anything? Did you pull from anything in this character creation?
I would say, yeah, a little bit from like Spawn is my favorite character, so definitely I took some elements from Spawn, but not exactly, but just
Right.
definitely a sort of inspiration, because Spawn has always been one of my favorite characters. But as far as like the story is, it just like it just came to me, just
Love
that
it.
whole struggle between angels and demons.
And then for Bloodstone in particular, how far do you have issues already kind of mapped out?
Um, I have I would say around like 5 or 6,
Okay.
I already have the third issue. I already have the basic idea for it. Have the character for it too. Uh, in issue 3, he's going to be facing a villain called Hellstone. So
Ooh.
it's going to be the villain's called Hellstone.
Do you have challenges sometimes coming up with names for characters or villains? Is that kind of a challenge?
Yeah. Sometimes it is, because you got to make sure it's the name is not copywritten,
Right. That's a
or
good point.
you know. So just make sure you always Google, and make sure the name is somewhat available. But at a certain point, like everything is taken,
Yeah.
So maybe just try mixing things, mixing names. It must have been so easy, like in the '60s and '70s, to come up with stuff. There's nothing was created.
That's right. All the names, you got to mishmash names now and then just kind of create things.
Yeah,
So
but
for
now, like you said, yeah, you have to just be careful with it.
that's right. And you mentioned this book earlier, Clownman. We kind of delve into this one a little bit. Um, my first question for Clownman is, I actually really love the design of the character. I feel like it's very definitely very Jim Lee in the sense of the character design. But I love the colors that you use for, in particular, like the hair and the white with the purple on the chest. I feel like it's very unique that I don't think I've ever seen a character colored or like designed that way. I don't know if you can kind of touch on your inspirations for the design of Clown Man.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, basically, I wanted something definitely that said he's a clown.
Right.
Um, so the red hair, I drew a lot of inspiration from the Crow and the Joker.
Yes.
Those are two of my favorite characters too. Uh, but Clownman, yeah, he's unique, and but basically the costume is just like a clown costume. Even his shoes are these clown boots that are blue.
That's
So
right.
I wanted just his whole design just to be a clown inspired.
And then how far do you have Clown Man mapped out?
Oh, Clown Man, that's pretty mapped out. I would say like 20 issues or more.
Oh,
What
snap.
like
That's
I have
awesome.
have all villains. Basically where the story's going. Issue 3 is pretty much mapped out. Uh, you're gonna see on issue 3. You're gonna see he's gonna face these two bank robbers. One is a rabbit called Guns, and then a Jinxie. They're bank robbers. So he's gonna face them in issue 3.
Very nice. And for and I this is actually a question that came to my mind as I was reading these earlier. I think you're using like a print on demand service. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Yeah, I use a print on demand. Before I was printing on I forgot the name of the service, but you had to print a certain amount of copies.
Right.
Like you had to print out 100 copies, and sometimes it's hard to, unless you're doing like a Kickstarter or something, you just don't have the space. So now I'm just using that print on demand that you could also use on your Kickstarters. That's way more convenient. That you don't
Right. I
have
was
to
gonna say,
have so many copies.
I was going to ask if you can kind of delve into the pros and cons of the print on demand service, especially for a creator owned distribution, and how that helps kind of your overhead on the business side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I would say print on demand is more positive than negative.
Hmm.
Because like we said, you don't have to have such a large amount of comics with you. Like some of those printing companies, you got to print out like, say, like 300 copies, 100 copies. You know, and a lot of things now are digital. So
Yes.
it's like a lot of fans just download the digital. So it's not like before that you needed a lot of printed copies. So I think print on demand is uh is is an option.
And actually, that brings another question to my mind that you just touched on: is what is digital distribution like for a company like Wicked Comics? How does that work, or what are the options available?
um you know um for digital, I would say Amazon works pretty well. you know uh Even better than Barnes and Nobles. Like, I've tried Barnes and Nobles, but I think Amazon took over as far
Right.
as digital. You're better off buying Amazon. and um
Global Comics is
and
getting
for
pretty
in
big too.
Yeah, I'm also on Global Comics. Global Comics is really well too. Yeah,
Love
they
that.
even have I think they have a thing that you could also get paid on Global Comics too if you're a creator.
That's fantastic. Um, so our next title that we could dive into a little bit is Killswitch. So, which I love the covers on this. I think this is probably my favorite of the three. I feel like Killswitch was my favorite. Um, can you talk about the inspiration for this particular story, or if it came from, or I guess my question before even getting to that is, which one of these three is the oldest? Or how far back does it go?
Oh, out of the three, I would say Clownman.
Clownman
Clownman
first.
is the oldest. Then it was Killswitch. Then Bloodstone.
Okay.
In that order.
So for Killswitch, I feel like it's very it got a lot of GI Joe elements, which I really like.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely,
what
definitely. Yeah,
but
definitely.
who,
GI Joe, Deadpool,
yes.
Deathstroke. You know.
But the one question I had, I noticed this is out of the series that you sent me, the logo changed between issue one and number two. I don't know if you can touch on that. I haven't seen that very often.
Yeah, you know. Sometimes I guess with the first issue, I guess I don't nail the everything that I wanted. Like even the logo. So I guess just with issue two, then we finally hit the right logo for the character. You know.
Right.
Um, Even sometimes with the design of the character, you might see it change a little bit too, because I just feel like some things have to be modified just to make it better.
That's right. And for Wicked Comics, like how do you make decisions on getting adapted to another medium, or making merch? Kind of what's your process on deciding what to do for outside of just making the comics?
Well, we do have some different merchandise. So we've done action figures.
Oh, love that.
So we've got into action figures, and we take like the main characters. Like I have an action figure for Clown Man, action figure for Killswitch, Bloodstone, and like that. I can't really make uh, all the characters because it's just too much work. You know,
Yeah, no kidding.
but I would just like, if you're independent, maybe just choose the your main ones, the main hero, and then maybe try to launch it with a Kickstarter, or just try to sell it on your own, maybe on eBay or something. See how people react to it.
Right. Is it easier to kind of approach merch with like the basics of like, some stickers, some t-shirts, hats, that kind of thing first? Or like you said, maybe try to go the action figure out if that's what you really feel like is something that people, your fans and your audience will actually engage with?
I would say, if it's something that you could do on your own, because I make my own action figures. So
Hmm.
I don't know if it's for somebody starting off, maybe that'll be too pricey, because before I started action figures, I asked the company how much they would charge, and they said, like, how much was it? It was like $20,000 just for a prototype. That's not
Whoa.
even like a finished. It was insane. So after that, a friend of mine on Facebook, he messaged me, and he kind of taught me how to mold make, and then that's how I started making action figures. Because if not, I couldn't. I mean, it's unaffordable.
Yeah, completely. Um, the next series, which I didn't get copies of Justice, but I'm interested to hear about Justice. Can you talk about kind of a quick pitch for that one and what viewers can expect if they get into that series?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Justice is it takes place in the future. Uh, Basically, Earth is destroyed by a meteor attack. So the last of humanity goes. They find life on this other planet called Solaris. Uh, but then this planet has a dark history of all these like different aliens attacking the city. So all these different aliens and creatures, but they come across a symbol. It's a J symbol, and it ignites this superhuman called he's a Justinite called Justice, and he basically he protects over the city.
Love that. So, kind of brings us to our closing section for today. Still a couple questions, but can you share with us some upcoming projects in the next 6 to 12 months that fans can get excited about?
Sure. Well, Lycans. Lycans is our next release. It's a werewolf comic. Takes
Yes,
place in yeah, yeah. Everybody loves werewolves. Yeah, one of my
absolutely.
favorite creatures. Yeah, it takes place in Transylvania in the 1800s. You know, this these lichens are causing horror in the city, but it the story also goes back in time and shows you how the lichens become these werewolves. These vampire hunters, they're on a mission to hunt for Dracula. So Dracula is
Mhm.
also in the story. So it's gonna be a whole big. I also have them mapped out too, where Lycans is going.
How far out do you have that one mapped out?
I would say like like 3 or 4 issues.
Excellent. And something that just came to my head too. Do you have plans at some point to do like a trade paperback or like a collected edition of any of your titles?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say after maybe like 3 or 4 issues, make it into one, like a graphic novel, like volume one, or call
Hmm.
it something. But it's gonna have like three of the issues in it, the full issue.
Yes, because that's what I want to definitely get copies for the libraries when we get those formats.
Oh yeah, that would be terrific. Yeah, yeah. Once I do it, yeah, I'll definitely contact you. I would love to, get them into libraries.
Yes.
That would be great.
I also I'll send it to you too. I have a library guide for comic creators and getting their stuff onto library shelves, physical and digital. So I'll send that to you too. And
Okay, thanks.
you touched on my next question a little bit. But can you kind of touch on, especially being the publisher and the one who says yes to something coming out? Do you still have a favorite part of the process of the creation, the illustration, working on actually getting things to print on demand? Do you have a favorite part of the process?
Um, I would say definitely the favorite part of the process, I would say, is always the creation. You know, as you're creating it is always the funnest. You know, because it's so new, and you just don't know where it's going to go and how it's going to evolve. So
Right.
I think just the creative process is always the my favorite. And but also, you know, holding the physical in your hand is always good too. You know, your finished work. But like we said, it's you're always your own best critic. You know, you're always criticizing it. So that's why I say the creating is my favorite.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
where can people find Wicked Comics online? Where can they find it?
You know, we pretty much branched out everywhere. So, you know, on Facebook, TikTok, and now we're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X. You know, the I try. You know, sometimes it's so hard to post on everything, but I try to make it a habit to try to post. You know, at least once or twice a week if I can.
Yeah, you really have to maintain that social media presence these days, for sure.
Yeah, it's a huge part, but yeah, definitely any creators that are out there, you know, you got so many tools, you know, you got to use them.
I almost think too, at some point, when and if you ever, if some a creator gets big enough, that should be almost like one of your first hiring decisions is to hire someone to do like full time marketing for you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You know, you don't know how much time you spend just posting stuff all day. You
Yep,
lose so much time. You know, posting on this, posting on that. Your Wi-Fi is no good. You lost a post. I mean, I could go on forever. The headaches you run to, but you know, if you're independent, you got to do it.
absolutely. And Carlos, my last question to close us out is kind of an odd question, but do you have a favorite snack or a meal as a go-to when you need to power through a project for a few hours?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say a glass of Coke and some pizza.
Oh, good, great choices.
Yes, yes. You know, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with pizza and some Coke that'll keep you up. You know, because as a creator, you know, you're always working these crazy hours. Like after we're done here, like my night is not done. You know, working on lichens to finish it.
That's right. And I've asked almost every creator this question that I've interviewed, and I've only had one person say that they didn't like to eat. So almost everybody at least gets to create on a full stomach. There's very few people that create on an empty stomach.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would argue that because you know you when creating you use your brain a lot, so
Yep,
you need fuel. You need fuel to create. You know, so I mean, I wish I
absolutely.
could. I wish I could without any fuel, but I just like I go dead. You know, I can't.
Well, and it's a come up in conversation a couple times now where just the taking care of yourself is can help the creative process. Drinking water, going outside once in
Yeah,
a while, doing something different besides staring at a computer screen or a drawing board. Do something to kind of
yeah,
change your activity up.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say like I try to at least walk a few times during the week because yeah, you don't want to be a vegetable, just working on your desk 7 days a week. You know, your health is gonna go bad. You can't do it.
When I don't like to bring him up, but Frank Miller is a great example of what happens to your body physically over the long term. Because he's just his body and his shoulders are just so like this now, and it's hard to
Right.
watch because he spent hours and hours and hours at an angle with his back bent over, and but still super appreciative of his work, but definitely has taken a physical toll. And I think there's a lot of creators that don't even may not ever get recognition, and their bodies just fall apart because they just don't take care of themselves.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Well, I would say first you got to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not gonna. You're just gonna fall apart. And then if you can't create anymore, what's the use of that? So I would just say, take it. Try to balance your physical health with your creative.
That's right. All right, Carlos, thank you so much for joining Comics for All today. It's been a pleasure talking to you here about Wicked Comics. Where, one more time, can people find you online?
Sure. Yeah. Just anywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is the newest one. But yeah, any the major social media, I always try to get on there so people could find us. And I just want to say thanks so much, Jameson, for having Wicked Comics on. And I wish you nothing but the best with the YouTube channel. You're doing. It's great that you're you're doing that with all the creators. Really enjoy it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I definitely would love to have you on again, especially when you got a new issue coming out with a Kickstarter or however you're promoting it. Love to have you back on again. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you see something new, love to be on, and just thanks all the wicked fans that are that continue to support. Without the fans, creators, nothing. So thanks to the wicked fans too.
of course. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming on to Comics for All today, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. All right, all done.